Over the past 5 years, I've been fortunate to meet some amazing souls who have supported me in giving me the confidence and courage to pave my own path in life, regardless of what the mainstream world may think. That being said, there have been some key people in that time that have become lifelong friends, and today's guest on the show is no different. From first meeting through Mark England's epic lake house parties, to traveling together, going on wild psychedelic journeys together, and both growing a lot in the last 5 years, it's safe to say that this episode is chock full of epic memories, stories, and some practical tips that will support any of you looking to pave your own path with the necessary first steps to do so. So please, help me in welcoming my man Chase Tolleson to the show. Chase Tolleson, my man. Dude, am I excited to be here with you today. As I said in the intro for all you listeners, Chase and I have known each other for about 4 or 5 years now, which feels like it could have been 8 lifetimes with how many epic shenanigan adventures we've gotten into. Were you there the time that we all took acid and went in a limousine to an arcade? Were you there that time?
I think I came in after that time. I think that was, I was probably in level 1 at that point. I was hearing about that because the next lake house was like, you guys were still talking about that.
Yeah, we definitely had an experience on LSD where all of us were touching another realm and barely able to form words. I remember that in Mark's living room.
Yes, 100%. Well, I tell people often, the first time I walked into the lake house, it was this Thursday night of that weekend. I walk in and I hear this. I look over. And there's this strikingly good-looking gentleman blowing up a bag of cannabis. And 2 hours later of in-flow conversation at that table, I was like, oh, cool. I have a new friend for life.
Yeah, dude. Was that the conversation when we got into the Saudi Prince's Lamborghini Demolition Derby conversation?
Yes, that was that conversation.
Holy shit. For the listeners that are like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Mark England, who's been a guest on the show, I mean, God, probably a couple of years ago now because I just got the show restarted, but he is a very dear friend of mine, runs a certification called Enlifted, highly recommend it. And he's brought a bunch of amazing people together. That's how I met Chase. And he does these get-togethers down at either his lake house or farmhouse, and it's just pure shenanigans. I mean, just workshops happening whenever. You got the lake, if you're at the lake house, the farm, we go shoot guns, and we just have a freaking blast together, blow bags, have epic conversations. And in one of them, Chase and I started talking about how, if I remember correctly, we were talking about how it feels very virtuous to want to help the little guy. But really, if you really want to help the little guy, what you do is go blow some of these people with millions and billions of dollars minds with something like Lamborghini Demolition Derby. Because if you're a billionaire over in like Saudi Arabia, you just think you've done everything. You're just like, I'm bored, you know? And so then people like Chase and I go over there and we're like, have you guys done Lamborghini Demolition Derby? And you meet them where they're at, where they're like, okay, that sounds fun. You do the Lamborghini Demolition Derby. And then after that, you're like, you guys like that? Cool. Come to Monterrey, Mexico and do peyote with me. And then all you got to do is change one of their minds and you free up billions of dollars to help the world with. Like, what would happen if one of these guys sees God and realizes, holy shit, I could buy the entire Amazon rainforest to protect it. I could solve world hunger. You only got to change 1 or 2 of those guys' minds to make a huge impact in the world. So now you listeners know what we're talking about.
The 100th monkey effect would be absolutely wild on that one.
Oh, yeah, dude, 100%. Because once one does it and starts to feel much happier, has better relationships, maybe has better sex with his wife or partner, or she has better sex with her partner. It could be a woman too.
Yeah.
And they go back and they're radiating that energy of joy. That's the one thing you can't buy. You can rent it, but you can't buy it. And, when someone's tapping into the source from within of that, people notice, because that's what we're all going for. I mean, if you buy a new car, you buy whatever, you're looking for the joy that it brings. But if you can tap into that within, you won.
And then being able to tap into that within and have the resources to go play this game called life. And it's something that I've noticed in the last few years and that I definitely have slipped and fallen into. It's like, well, I only need to tap into the joy within. And then it's like, well, wait, why is my credit card maxed out?
Yeah.
why do I feel guilty buying healthy food that's more expensive? It's like, I don't know, having the resources and then the joy within to go along with it. I mean, dude, we incarnated here at this time where the Earth is a theme park. We might as well be able to have tickets to get on the rides.
Dude, You got to send it, man, you know? And that's my whole thing is that, you know, abundance is our birthright. And it doesn't just mean financially, but it does also mean financially. And I think a lot of spiritual people, they kind of like, oh, money, oh, you know, and it's like, no, like if you want to change the world, you got to have a lot of money to do that. You really do, you know, because yes, you can hold the door for someone and make their day better. Yes, I understand all that, but you're not going to be able to save the entire Amazon rainforest with a smile and a door holding, you know? So the level of impact you're able to make is directly related to the amount of money you have. And that may be hard for some of you guys to hear, but it is true. And to be honest, I've never wanted to be a starving artist. You know, I've never wanted to be someone who just does exactly what I love, but doesn't make money at doing it. Like, no, like you can have both. It's a yes and for sure. And I'm glad you mentioned that because a lot of people get stuck in that. Like, yeah, on the other side, you shouldn't just go into what's going to make you money, even if you hate it. But you also shouldn't just do what you love every day, but not ever charge for it and not see your value and give it away for free. Because then people aren't going to respect it, and you're not going to respect it.
No, 100%, bro. It's, you know, you and I have both heard numerous times. I'm sure when people buy, they buy in. When they pay attention. You said something really cool there. I just dropped a solo show talking about impact versus money. Because I talk to coaches weekly. They're like, oh, I just care about my impact. I don't need money. It's like, well, if you have more money, you get to create more impact. The skills that allow you to create impact are the same skills that allow you to make money and vice versa.
100%, dude. It's a very important topic that I feel is so convoluted, especially in the spiritual spaces and even in coaching and stuff too. Because at the end of the day, I think a lot of us grew up in a time where we've seen people like Bill Gates and these lizard beings do bad shit with money and do weird shit. And, you know, I think a lot of us just kind of form the belief, oh, money must be bad. And we hear things like money is the root of all evil. It's like, no, it's not money is the root of all evil. It's the love of money is the root of all evil. And I wouldn't even say that.
The idolization.
What's up?
Idolization of money.
Yeah, the idolization. That's the best and most accurate term for it, for sure.
It's, and I had a YouTube video a couple of years back called The 5 Levers of Freedom. And most coaches are like physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And like those like internal freedom, like being able to be free regardless of what's going on outside of us, those are it. The 5th one, as far as I'm concerned, is financial.
Yes.
You know,
100%, dude.
I mean, we're out here. I mean, homie, we've worked with the same intuitive mentor, right? Like we've both played in very deep, weird waters.
Dude, 100%, bro. You know, and
a lot of people would be like, well, that's all made up. That's all imagined. Like, how do you know any of it's real? I mean, for anybody, money's not real. So, yeah.
Dude, it is true, man. I mean, you know, I've been getting into like a lot of the sovereignty stuff the last couple of years. And I won't mention any names on this podcast because the information's still private. But I met a guy recently who is the fucking goat of not only credit card discharge, not only mortgage discharge, but printing money. Like not actually doing that. That's not what I'm saying. He's not counterfeiting money. But like I'm saying like for anyone
the Federal
who thinks,
Reserve does that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And for anyone who thinks that money is real, in terms of like what I mean by that is like we have to go work and put in a lot of effort to make money. Anyone who thinks that's real, when you meet someone like this, who's like, yeah, man, I just saved another family of four's house from getting foreclosed on, and they have no more mortgage. Immediately, most people go, dude, you're a bullshit artist. That's not real. It can't be real. And I totally agree. That's how I would react too when I first heard about this stuff. But getting to see it with my own 2 eyes, getting to see the receipts, getting to see these things, and also having people in my like first degree of separation here, such as Aaron Abkey and Jay Griff that have both discharged cars, credit cards, whatever, you start to actually see physical evidence that money is not real. Like we understand in like a spiritual context, the entire world we think we live in is not even real. It's a dream world. And so anything within it is not technically real. But when you see it on a physical level, it's a little bit easier as the, you know, main character of Ryan or Chase or whoever's listening to be like, well, that's evidence I can't refute. So what the fuck does that mean? And that is very interesting.
And when you realize that it's not real and that the thing that we do focus on is money, that how much of it moves around day to day, it can be just another resource.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, for me, that was one of the biggest things. Like, it's just another resource.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. It's what allows you to play the game, you know? Yeah. And like, that's why, you know, a big part of what I've been getting into is teaching a little bit about this stuff, like teaching a little bit about even the centralized ways to make money, you know, and showing people, like, when I got into crypto, and I don't think I've ever announced this on a podcast. So just to make sure you guys understand, I'm not bullshitting you. We're talking from a place of inexperience here. When I learned through Jay Griff, Jeremy Griffin, for anyone listening who wants to look him up, you know, his whole plan was like, hey, most people don't have $100,000 to just dump into crypto, like hanging out in their bank account. Right. But if you leverage your credit and you leverage debt, like all the millionaires and billionaires do, you can take out credit cards, take that money off the cards, put it into crypto, get a 0%, you know, bunch of cards for 12 to 18 months. And then when the bull run hits, you can either choose to pay back the credit cards or you can choose to discharge them. And you also, along with doing that, get all the points as well. So Rach and I are doing a free trip to Italy, basically, in a couple of weeks from the credit card points I got from that. So, you know, again, there's always a way. And I'm not saying that everyone should just go out and do that. Like, there's a process, and it's, I'll be honest, it is scary. It's fucking terrifying. It terrified the shit out of me. But, you know, kind of calling the bluff, because when people talk about this stuff, about money not being real, and, you know, especially in the sovereignty realm, like, oh, they'll hit you up, but they can't do anything. They can't bring you to court. It's like, you may logically believe it, but when you're in the situation, it's scary, you know. But after a while, you start realizing, holy shit, they really are true. Like my buddy, I won't mention his name, but my buddy had a Citi credit card, and they were trying to dick him around with it. And he owed, like, I think, I don't know, 15 grand on it or something like that. And once he learned about discharge and everything, he's like, I'm just not going to pay it. I'm going to try some discharge processes. And he was trying stuff and it wasn't working. And they were sending him like, all right, dude, you got to come to court. He just ignored it. They sent him another thing. Hey, you missed your court date. You got to come to this date. He didn't do anything because, again, you know, they only can contract with you if you choose to go to the court. That's what you start learning when you do all this stuff. It's all some weird fucking Monopoly game. But he just kept ignoring it. And eventually they sent him a letter. It's been settled. You don't owe anything. Screw off, basically. And that was it. He was like, dude, I literally did nothing. I didn't even do the credit card discharge. I just avoided answering them and they just gave up. So it's very interesting, man. I'm not saying anyone out there should go do that. Use your own fucking wisdom. Tune in, use discernment. But I'm just saying what's possible to strengthen Chase's case here about money, you know? So, yeah.
It's so many people, the things that we don't know are easy to write off as scams or not real or not possible in order to stay right about because most people would rather be right than be free or be right than be successful.
Yep.
And that 100%. Might be tough to hear.
Dude. Sometimes the things that are toughest to hear are the exact things we need to hear. Or as Joseph Campbell states, the cave you fear most to enter holds the treasure you seek. One of my favorite quotes of all time.
It's powerful and accurate. It's I put a Threads post out yesterday. Like, the difference between you and the people who have what you want is at one point or another, or multiple points, they took a risk you're too scared to take.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, dude, I mean, you know me, homie. I'm like, when I think I'm a big, like, teddy bear. Like, and my wife usually has to remind me, like, hey, until people get to know you, you might look like one of the scarier guys in the room. And I get that I can come across a little abrasive if people haven't gotten to know me. Like, it's all love. And like, just because something is scary or just because anxiety pops up and it brings up an old wound or an old story, doesn't make that intuition. That doesn't mean it's your higher self trying to protect you.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Could just be a narrative that's keeping you small.
Dude, I think I would beg to argue. I know in my own personal life, I won't project it on the listeners, but I know in my own personal life, I'd say about 90 to 95% of the time, what you just said is accurate. When I feel a feeling that my old self would call, ooh, intuition, no, this can't be right for me, it's way too uncomfortable. When I've leaned into that and done it, on the other side of that is like, holy shit, I could have never imagined how amazing said decision was to make and what the payoff was on the other side. But the challenging thing is that we can talk about it, right? But I remember when I was at the level where I was still playing small like that, it's like I believed these things, but the gap like that stands in between your old self and the new self waiting for you can be scary, especially for a lot of people that don't have someone like you around, like really good community members. I mean, that's what really helped me when I started going out to the lake house and being around people like you and people like Chris Marhefka and like Adam Chin and Mark and all these people. It normalized it for me. I saw everyone else taking big risks. So that voice in my head that was like, oh, it's scary. I was like, well, they're all doing it. Why not me?
100%, bro. And I mean, Major League Baseball players, right? What's a good batting average? 300. You get a hit 3 out of every 10 times you're up. Like sometimes you do scary stuff and you fall on your face. I have fallen on my face a lot. I have lost 6 figures in a real estate deal. And I would do it all over again to be sitting where I'm sitting today. Although if we were recording this next week, I would have my new office chair that's a meditation chair, and I would rather be sitting there.
Dude, did you get a Herman Miller, bro?
No. We'll go really bougie when we completely redo the office.
Yeah. There's Rachel's dad. There was a sale on Herman Miller's. This feels worthy to mention in this podcast, but he had a sale on Herman. He went to a sale on Herman Miller's and he bought like 8 of them. Like I've never seen this guy hang out with anyone in his life. He's just like he's a straight savant genius. Shout out Crypto Ernie or Zero DTE on YouTube. You guys can go check that out. He builds automated trading systems for Wall Street. So I mean, what a unit to have in your corner when you're getting into crypto and whatnot. But so I got a Herman Miller. Rachel's got one. This is his hand-me-down computer I'm on too. So funny, man.
That's beautiful, bro.
Stuff. Yeah,
love that, dude. What as you started talking about the lake house, what a wild ride that it's been.
It's crazy, bro. It's crazy.
Dude. I owned a gym. I thought I would own it for a while back January 21 when I walked in there.
Was that Ardent Fitness?
It was Ardent Fitness. Yeah. Savage with the memory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, guys, cannabis people can remember stuff. All right. This is your proof. All right.
Well, I think we've talked about this on your show before. I didn't do I didn't do my homework well before I started smoking cannabis. Yeah. It wasn't that. I just didn't like school.
Yeah. I just wasn't genuinely enthusiastic about doing things I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
That's the
thing.
I joke about that often. Like, how insane of an ego a teacher has to have to think that a 6-year-old must need meth. That's the only logical conclusion. Not that they're boring as absolute hell and they remind the kids of the smell of reams of paper and office supplies. But no, the kid's just lacking and deficient in meth. That's what they need to sit still in school. That's how far off the beaten path we've gotten, bro. It's pretty insane to think about that.
Yeah. Hey, you don't do well in this system that was originally created to brainwash people into serving for the army of Prussia, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So like we're going to put you on meth so that you do better in this system. And I mean, so tie this into everything we've been talking about, right? We've been fed stories and narratives that the way to be successful, the only way to get through this life is to go through school, to get a degree, to get a job, which, hey, if you want to work 9 to 5, more power to you. Sometimes I would really love that.
Yeah.
And it's by doing the things that other people say we're supposed to do. And people so often never get to tap into that thing that we've circled around, that actual voice, that actual guiding light.
100%, dude. You know, it's very interesting because, I don't discount that for some people, they're happy they're 9 to 5. They have a good life. Like their boss is awesome. Maybe hooks them up with extra vacation days, whatever, right? Some people got it made, but that's probably like 1% of the people that work a 9 to 5. And that's why I knew for me, when I started my own business, I'm like, listen, I imagine this is going to be a lot of work. I imagine it's going to be a lot of long nights, but I get to choose. I get to be the one that chooses to stay up later. I get to be the one that chooses what time I wake up. I get to be the one that in the middle, like right before this podcast, I was outside hanging in the sun with my shirt off. It's finally getting nice here. Like I couldn't do that if I worked at a 9 to 5. I couldn't just take my dog out for a walk in the middle of the day. I couldn't go down to the park and hang by the ocean in the middle of the day, go mountain biking, like hit tobacco on a podcast. It's like, I couldn't do that if I was at a 9 to 5,
No.
And I worked at a dispensary too, like one of the coolest quote unquote 9 to 5s you could have. And it still was brutal.
Dude, I don't have a babysitter on Thursdays. Intentionally. I spend all of Thursday with my 2.5-year-old daughter. My wife is working until number two comes. And I work less than 40 hours a week right now. You know, like my days that I work, they're stacked because I don't work Thursday. I don't have a babysitter in the middle of Wednesday. And like my business grosses multiple 5 figures every month. Like there's ways to do it. And I see so many people, you know, talk. Okay. So this is a fun segue. We were talking earlier about people thinking sovereign citizen stuff is all a scam. I mean, I'm sure I'd imagine you've gotten some comments on, oh, another Instagram coach, another scam artist. Like, bro, my client, Brennan, he was driving Lyft in January. 3 weeks into April, he's collected $12,000. Like, how is that a scam?
Exactly, dude. Exactly. You know what it is, bro? People would rather think it's a scam than actually have the courage to try it. That's what it is. And that's what I found about internet trolls. It's like I tell all my clients when they're looking to start their own business or they're looking to put themselves out there. Maybe they don't even have a business idea yet, but they just want to start making content and see where it leads. It always comes up. Well, dude, like, what about the trolls? And I'm like, let me tell you the easiest way to work through trolls. They are commenting on your dream. You are living your dream. You are not the same. If they had the balls to go live their dream, they wouldn't have enough time to talk shit on Instagram. So send them compassion, send them love because they're suffering. Only people that are suffering say shitty stuff to people. Just straight up.
Well said, dude. It may have been Alex Rubchinsky when I had him on. He was talking about his girls at school and like one came home and another girl had been mean. And he was like, do you think if she was feeling loved at home that she would act that way at school? And it just like, oh, okay. So, I mean, there's always something there. And I'll say this too. Any good brand has evangelists. And if you have evangelists, you will also have heathens. And like, you got to stand for something.
100%. And your level of success in life is directly related to how much you can stand in the face of adversity. Like I think about, there was this video I watched. There's this YouTuber, Ben of the Week. I think he's hilarious. He's so funny. But he has been getting roasted for years through this woman, the vegan teacher. She has a profile on Instagram. And this woman is what I would describe subjectively as abysmal, dude. Like as far away from who I'd want to surround myself with as possible. But she's got 1 million+ followers. And you know what? She doesn't give a fuck. And that's what makes her powerful. You know, I'm not saying she's the most respectful to people. I'm not saying I approve of the things she says, but give credit where credit's due, man. It takes a lot of balls to be able to just speak your truth to people and not care what happens as a result. And, you know, you look at Andrew Tate, for instance, very similar. He's got a lot of people to love him, a lot of people to hate him. And, you know, at the end of the day, the guy knows what he's doing. He'll put out content that makes him seem exactly like these people that hate him want to seem, misogynistic, whatever. But when you hear him on a real interview, he's not about that. He doesn't disrespect women. He's like, no, we're just different, you know, and I poke fun at things. But, you know, again, like, you know, even Mark, you know, Mark's an example of this too, you know, like, I mean, you know, when you get haters, it actually shows you're doing something right because you're challenging the status quo. Because what it is like this. When I got in the business and I spawned the idea that I wanted to be a coach, I didn't know I was going to do cannabis stuff yet or anything. I just got this idea that I wanted to be a coach. And I remember like it was yesterday. I was at this park in my house, Webb Park, and I was with my friend who I grew up with, childhood friend. And, you know, he's been a part of my life for so long. He always knows I'm trying this, trying that. You know, I'm just always figuring out a certain way so I don't have to live life the way normal people do. And I was like, yeah. So I tell him about it. And he's like, so people are going to pay you to talk to you? He's like, I don't think that's going to work, dude. And I was like, well, we'll see. And now that same person reached out. He's like, hey, man, how are you like making money online? Like, how are you? And I'm like, dude, remember when I had that conversation with you? You know, I felt fearful on it, but I was like, whatever, you know, like I'm never going to get anywhere if I just keep staying in a fear state. You know, fear is the opposite of God. It's not real. So
9 times out of 10, when I welcome one of my new clients into our community, people will welcome them in, and then they go, "Thanks, guys. Happy to be here, and scared and excited for the journey."
Mm-hmm.
Like if there's this misconception that people who are doing big things don't recognize that fear that still tries to come up.
Mm.
Like the key is in stepping past it, like 100%, man. And yeah. And also bring back Mark England 2057.
Oh my God, dude. Mark's got to bring it back. The shit posting dude was so funny.
Yes.
Oh my God. That was Mark England's old Instagram for all your listeners.
Yeah. Back in my day.
Yeah.
You know, and what you're talking about speaking your truth, you know, I put a reel out today around this. Like, you know, so many people are like, man, I want my coaching business to feel authentic. I want my online business to feel authentic. But then it's still forced because they're not allowing themselves to see themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and simple, not easy. Right? You and I both know that. Yeah. It's easier to carry around the stories and the narratives that we were fed and think, well, I'm right? Like all this stuff that I have is right, because if I'm wrong, well, where have I gone astray, and what does that mean?
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Yeah. What if you could be right in this moment and choose to get in the flow, as opposed to 50 years down the road looking back and going, man, I had that fork in the road where like I almost bet on myself, but I just decided to not for some reason.
It's so interesting, bro.
Yeah.
It really is. And, you know, like one of the things that I found too, just like you're saying, is that I think the people that are most successful find a way to have a healthy relationship with their fear. Because what I used to think is that exactly what you said, like, I guess fear just goes away as you get bigger. You know, if you're someone like Aubrey Marcus and you're on Joe Rogan for the first time, like, I guess fear just goes away.
Yep.
But it doesn't. You just channel it into something different. I remember when I did the Enlifted event where I was the last speaker that closed it out, and I was terrified, dude. Like, I podcast all the time and stuff, but talking on a stage with a fucking spotlight on you gives me the heebie-jeebies, bro. So I was asking Mark before, and I'm like, hey, dude, I get a lot of like fucking rapid heartbeat and anxiety before I go on. Like, how do I get rid of that? And he looks at me, he's like, dude, you don't get rid of it. I was like, what? It was like Dark Night of the Soul. I'm like, I'm just going to live with this forever. He's like, no, dude, you use it. He's like, if you run out there and you're just like, what the fuck's going on? Blah, like, and you just get it, like you use the energy as excitement, not anxiety, you transmute it, then it ceases to have a hold on you. But if you try to go out there and pretend like you don't have it, like everyone in the crowd knows you have it, okay? Because they're picturing themselves. You're not hiding it from anyone except you're trying to hide it from yourself. It's actually hilarious, man. There's a lot of very interesting human experiences like that I found over time. Like that's what MDMA is very good for, I found. Is that like the second you take MDMA with your friends, you realize you're all thinking the same things. You all have the exact same insecurities. You all have the exact same anxious thoughts. You know, you all have the same inner dialogues, or very similar anyway, relative. Yeah. And, you know, it's so healing because you just realize like, everyone's just doing the best they can. Everyone's got challenges. And the quicker I can be to be the first person to be like, yep, I'm scared too, then you give permission to every other person to be like, oh, thank fucking God. You know? And so what I tried to be now is the permission slip. And it's, again, simple, not easy. Yeah. But whenever I get into something and I'm nervous, I just do my best to admit, like, I'm nervous here. Yeah. And I don't try to hide it.
Well, you're doing a great job of that here too, because and I hear myself do it. And, you know, I'm talking out at people, you're being the permission slip and you're being a reflection.
Yeah.
And it's a cool dynamic that's being created for the listeners here.
Yeah, dude. It's super rad, man. And I'm curious to ask you, man, because, you know, you do business coaching, you know, you supported, like you were mentioning, this client who just went from driving Lyft to making 12 grand and, you know, a 4-month period of not having a business to having a business. What are some things you found for anyone listening who's like, God, this sounds great, Brian and Chase. Where do I start? What would you tell someone in 2025 in terms of where to start? Not necessarily like, you know, you can get into like what industries are popping right now if you want to, but more like the fundamentals, like, you know, maybe like knowing your why, you know, being risk tolerant. Like, what things would you say are like, if you were just going to start out right now, what would you do? Put it that way.
Oh, if I was going to start again, knowing what I know now, I would, a version of an ikigai, right? I would figure out what the market wants and what problem I can solve and what problem I will enjoy solving. Now, what the market wants and what problem I can solve might seem like two different things at first. Because, I mean, you know me, I to think that I'm only coaching people on their message creation and content, that's a little silly.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
And people want to make money. And I know that us spiritual aligned folk, we want to make money because there's a lot of y'all in my DMs saying, I want to make money. And if I were to start again, I'd figure out what the market wants and I would package something. I would put what I have into that package as long as I can deliver on it. Yeah. I would build a Trojan horse. And social media has created this age of where it makes it difficult to do that if you don't understand the mechanisms at play, because there's influencer pages that talk about the deeper stuff and they have a big following and a big business, or there's one or two people who have built a business doing something that you think you want to do and you think you're doing it the way they do it. They're communicating actual problems that the market thinks they have. And I mean, when we get up the ladder a few rungs, we can forget what the bottom rung felt like and what it looked like. Fitness is a phenomenal gateway drug to personal development. Then so many fitness coaches find personal development. They're like, I don't want to coach fitness anymore. Well, cool. You better be really good at personal development because you just cut your possible client pool down in thirds. Or you could systemize the delivery of the fitness, still change lives. I mean, bro, it's the heroes. You brought up Joseph Campbell. Figure out the hero's journey that they're trying to go on and what their call to action is, what their call to adventure is, and meet them in the ordinary world. Because I did this. I was like, ooh, stories and words and finding yourself. I'm going to change my message to that. And I went from having $10,000 to $15,000 months in my fitness business to having a $3,000 month. It's like, oh yeah, guys just want to look like me, or so they think. So yeah. Well, that's the long-winded version to say, meet the market where they're at and take them to where they want to go. Yeah.
I love that idea of like, sell them what they want, give them what they need. It's like, for instance, I'll try to make this personal to a situation. It's like when I got in the business, I thought I was going to go do X, Y, and Z, right? I thought I was going to make a different program. I thought I was going to do this. I thought I was going to do that. But what actually happened was I tried to jump the gun a little bit. I tried to get too far ahead without looking back and regressing into like, who was I like 4 years ago? Yeah. That's the person I'm looking to help, and what were my problems then? What was I thinking of? What books was I reading? Because, again, like, and I've done this with cannabis too. This is like actually a way better example. When I came out with all my cannabis stuff, it was, it was all about learn how to experience deeper connection through cannabis. Yeah. And I sold spots in the program, but it was always like paddling upstream for Connect with Cannabis. And then I remember that people kept reaching out to me saying, how do I break my dependency? How do I create a healthy relationship with cannabis? So I took that data and I was like, okay, let me change the marketing around in my course. Instead of like getting them connection, they're still going to get it. But how they're framing their issue is their solution is they want a healthy relationship with cannabis. They don't want to put it down, but they don't want to stay in the same relationship. So I started using that language and all of a sudden people resonated more. Now, 3 years later, I get people often, they're like, yeah, I really feel cannabis is increasing my ability to connect with myself. And I'm like, okay. So it's trippy, dude. People are starting to get the message I did 4 years ago now. And now the healthy relationship stuff, I'm kind of moving away from too, because I'm getting more into like, okay, what does the healthy relationship with cannabis bring out? Deeper intimacy, better vision for your business. That's more what I'm getting into. Solve? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And that's so, and I'll go through on initial breakthrough calls with people after they enroll and ask a line of questions. And it's like, well, okay, well, what do they get out of that? Well, what do they get out of that? Well, why do they want? And it's like, that's the problem they're probably aware of. That thing you just answered 5 layers deep. And what came up for me while you were talking is a lot of us want to sell where we are we want to sell to ourselves.
Yeah.
And we forget to sell to us 4 or 5 years ago. It's important because the further you get away from a change, the less impact, the less value you give it. You know, the further you get away from a mentor, the less that you remember that they helped you. Like you remember, you appreciate them, but like you forget like that truly groundbreaking feeling. You know, I've had clients who it's like, they're like bawling. They're like, dude, thank you so much. And they like 2 years later, we're just peers, you know? And that's the way, good coach, that's the way it ought to be, in my opinion.
Definitely.
And remember what that gateway drug was. What was that first step that like really started it rolling? Because that's probably the problem you have to solve. And I'll lay this on extra thick. If it seems second nature, if it seems second, and that's when I was like, all right, cool. Maybe it's probably time to get into business coaching, because I started to see the ones and zeros on this shit. I was like, okay, we can help people.
Yeah, 100%, dude. You know, one of the things I found too is that when I first got into business, I tried to create a lot of stuff. Like within 4 years, I've created Grow with Cannabis, Connect with Cannabis, Clarity with Cannabis, Expand with Cannabis, Coach with Cannabis, Breathe with Cannabis, like 2 podcasts, you know, and like I wouldn't go back and change that at all. But what I've learned on the other side of that is there's actually beauty and simplicity. Because here's the other challenge, and I'm curious if you've either run into this or you've seen people running into it. I started training with a business mentor a year ago. I'm training with other ones, but this one really changed my life. His name's Ani Mani, and I was telling you about him. He's a gangster, dude. He's been on this one time on psychedelics. I'm going to get him on here. Cool. But dear friend of mine too, and just a great guy. And he gets it. I mean, he literally could undo every knot in my brain that I had. And when I got into his community, I was burned the fuck out. I was doing like, sometimes no joke, dude, 30 fucking sales calls a week. And out of that, like half of them would sign up, which, oh, great, 50%. But I'm still like, dude, I wanted to be teaching cannabis, and now I'm just a glorified sales guy, you know? Yep. And I had tried getting closers, setters, and it was just, I was trying to grow and scale. And it was just like, seemed like the more I scaled, the more revenue I made, but the less net I made. And so I was falling into this like really dark night of the soul where I was like, shit, what am I going to do? And I had just gone on Aubrey Marcus. I'd done all these huge things. And I'm like, why the fuck am I still struggling? So I reached out to Ani and we hopped on a call. And the first question he asked me was, Ryan, what do you want your life to look like? Yep. And in that moment, I was like, fuck, dude, I haven't asked myself that in a while because I've been so focused on whatever it takes. But when you constantly say whatever it takes, like there is a phase in the beginning where, yeah, I could argue that it is whatever it takes.
Like you have to work hard to figure out how to work smart.
Exactly. Yeah. Like when I was a nobody, like I had no connections in the world, whatever. Yeah, I had to go through my little eat shit phase, you know? Yep. I had to really hustle. I had to like, you know, do a lot of things that maybe I didn't love to do. Like I didn't love hopping on sales calls, but I knew I was getting market research data. It was beneficial. And then no one really talks about how fast that can shift. Like I go on Aubrey Marcus and all of a sudden my calendar gets booked out for 6 months and 2 weeks.
I remember talking to you during that.
Holy shit, bro. And like talking about a dopamine hit, like I rode the dopamine for like probably a month and then it started to crash down around me because I was getting a lot of no-shows. I realized I didn't have funnels set up. I realized I had no way to capture emails. Like it was just a mess. Yeah. And so basically what happened was when I met Ani and I started training with him, he was like, dude, I'm one guy. I'm going to run my entire business, make $1 million a year, working 4 days a week, 4 hours a day. And I was like, that is now my compass. And so ever since then, I've been dwindling away all these things I do and just maximizing my input in others and also making myself less available because I used to love to get back to all my DMs and things like that. And I took a lot of pride in it. And I still do when I have time and I naturally feel like doing it. Yeah. But, you know, again, like I started to realize if I make myself so available, it's not really going to have people think, oh shit, like, you know, I want to join one of his programs because they can just reach out to me whenever and I'll answer their questions.
100%, bro.
That's what started happening with the sales calls too. So I ended up just nixing the sales calls and being like, nope, this is right for the people. Like I started to think about when I took Unlifted, when I took Training Camp for the Soul, I didn't need a sales call. I knew it was right for me and I just said yes. So I'm like, those are the people I'm looking for. And I have faith I'm going to find those people. And, you know, I've done a couple other nuts and bolts things since then that we can talk about, but like that was a huge shift for me. That was a huge shift, realizing I don't want this old style of like 20 people on my team, you know, $3,000 per YouTube video to edit, throw
Yep.
$2,000 for a podcast to edit, all these sponsors. Like, it's just like, no, I don't want any of that
dude,
anymore,
no. Like it's somewhere along the way, people decided an online business needed to have a bunch of overhead, and that is just not the case. Like we talked before the call, or before the podcast, I'm onboarding an appointment setter right now, and like, it's a test run, bro. Like it's a test run, we'll see. I'm glad you went there with the compass too, because like anytime somebody asks, hey, what's something somebody can do? What would you do to start over? I like giving tactical, practical stuff. And, I forgot we're here with the two of us.
Dude,
the first thing people do in my community after they do their evil inner business partner reframe, which is a Billy story for business.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's the Billy story prompts for business. And then 10-year vision. And like, no, you're not going to sit here and write it in 5 minutes. Go meditate, go smoke some cannabis if that's your jam. Go take a psilocybin microdose, like the 300 milligrams that I have rolling through my system today.
The black stacks. Is that what you're getting?
What's that?
Do you know Brain Supreme, Adam Shell?
Yeah, I do.
About that guy
yet? Let's talk about that.
Yeah. I'll mention it to you
for sure. And then like going through and reading it, and that's the compass. Does this decision that I make take me further towards, or further closer to, or further away from that?
Yes.
And from there, then you like, so take back what I said earlier. That's the start. Mm-hmm. And then from there, find a problem you can solve and build a business that takes you a half an inch, a foot, a mile closer to that with every action you take. And then make sure every action you take is the highest leverage. I've had this conversation multiple times this week with my client. Well, what do I do for my schedule? Well, how do I just put your highest leverage action items first? Whatever moves you forward the most towards your vision that day, do it.
Mm-hmm. Dude, it's so funny you say that, because I tell my clients a very similar thing. I say, as long as you're getting 0.1% better at minimum every day, 0.1% closer to your goal, even if that's just like, I have a client who, I love this guy. He's fucking awesome. And he's having a baby soon. And so one day, he was trying to assemble this closet, and it was just brutal. You know how that goes, IKEA equipment and stuff when you're having a baby. And he was getting frustrated. And I was like, listen, bro, right now, that's your action item. Like, don't worry about any of the other stuff. Right now, like, you're training to be a dad. Your action item is build that crib, And I helped him see, like, that's not you not doing the other stuff. That's you doing exactly what you're meant to be doing. You know?
I'll pile on that. When Sarah was pregnant, we were getting we had a cart sitting in the house that needed to be built for our Berkey to go on top of. And I hadn't put it together. And this is 2022. I was running Primal Man. Yeah. And I went and I put this cart together, and I get a message. I go and I check my stuff after I put it together. And there's a message from one of my leads who wanted to sign up. Hey, can you send me the checkout link? From while I was doing that. Like, the energy, going and doing, being where you are supposed to be, where you're supposed to be fully present, where your energy is supposed to be, is going to move it in the right spot in all the other areas of life as well.
Yes. Dude, I'm so glad you mentioned that. It's so true. And, like, Rachel's been a big help for me on this. I think men, we fall into this like grind, like type schedule. And Rachel's been a big part of me, like, putting a lot of space in my calendar. Like, I used to have days that were like from like 8 a.m. to like 6 p.m. every day. And like, when you're on calls and you're talking that long, not only is it exhausting, but also like, you're breathing through your mouth when you're talking, So when you do that for 10 hours, you end up very upregulated at the end of the day, having sleep issues, things like that. Now, the most calls I do in a day is like 3. And one of those is usually just like a conversation with either Shelly, my partner and coach with cannabis, or Chris, my partner and breathe with cannabis. We're just shooting the shit, whatever. I just booked a collaboration retreat with this guy, Christian. He was just on the podcast. He's the fucking man, dude. I love what this guy and what he does.
CBC?
Yeah, CBC. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going down to collaborate and do a retreat in Mexico for Halloween. I'm like, sick, dude. My work is I get to go down to Mexico and do breathe with cannabis for Halloween. Like, oh God, like, like having times in the day now where I just go take a walk, or I take my mountain bike out, or I jump on the trampoline, or I hop the sauna, or I just go outside and sit and just hang out. I don't try to fill the space anymore all the time. Like sometimes I'll just sit outside. It's cool.
Now, I do want to highlight for the listeners, especially doing what I do, the trial and error and the taking something to market and testing it. I mean, if you tried to go like this from the start, like just taking space and only doing what you want to do, would you be where you are now?
No, because I wouldn't have been able. I mean, there's no way to know, but I'll say
there's no way to know.
Honestly, no way to know. But what I can imagine anyway is that if I hadn't gone through that, not only would I potentially not be where I am, like a very big potential, but also I wouldn't be able to reach and relate to others that are also either going through or have gone through that issue. And I think it's kind of like the thing that not a lot of us talk about, but all of us go through it, that run our own online businesses and whatnot. Like, it's very easy to become addicted to it and to think that doing more and putting more effort in and willpowering is going to get you farther. And yes, it does at times. Like there are times you just got to pull your friggin', big boy pants on and do what you got to do, even if you don't feel like it. But you don't want to make a lifestyle out of doing that. Right. Like David Goggins is half right. Okay. Like, yes, when you're at your max, you're probably only at like 20%. That's true. That doesn't mean that every day you should be trying to hit your max. Like think about the gym, right? Are you trying to max out every day? It's like, no, your muscles have no time to repair.
I used to try and max my deadlift way too often. And my girlfriend at the time didn't like it because guess what? Stuff didn't work in bed because my nervous system was overloaded.
Yeah, dude.
Like, same thing can happen with business. It bleeds out into other areas of life. And as like people try and silo things. So go back to the compass. What life do you want to live? What pieces of that aren't you doing that you can do right now? And what are the easiest actions you can take to create more pieces of that you can do?
Yeah.
And oftentimes, like I talk to people like, I want to make 30K a month, and they get to like 15. They're like, actually, I'm kind of good. Like I had a conversation with a coach who did 15,000, and like, why don't I want more? Like, well, I don't know. Well, because I'm good. Like, cool. If you got your bills covered and you're good and you don't have this craving for more, you are an anomaly of, like, congratulations. You have discovered awareness.
Yeah. It's funny, man. One thing I would throw in there too, for any of you people trying to start businesses is, based on what we were just talking about, and this may be a challenge to do, but it's worth it. Be radically honest about what patterns you're looking to like repair in your life. Not that you need fixing, but like, for instance, if you have a tendency to start a lot of things and never finish, be honest with yourself. And be aware of that. And when you make every decision, run it through that pattern and be like, am I doing this? And be radically honest with yourself. Are you a self-sabotager? Are you someone who will build a lot of stuff and then right before you get the payoff, you're just like, screw it, it's not worth it. Be aware of that. Do you have shiny object syndrome? Are you constantly looking at, this might get a little dark, but like, are you in a relationship and you're constantly looking around at other people, like not to shame or judge or anything, but just like that's going to happen in business too. Because how we do anything is how we do everything. These things are not so separate. Relationships, business, health, fitness, they're all very similar. Like you were saying, if you're trying to max out every day in deadlift, you're going to do the same thing in business and you're going to get the relation of a herniated disc, but in business, which is like burnout, nervous system burnout.
Yeah, exactly. And then you burn out and you stop for 2 or 3 weeks. Like, oh, I'm taking a rest. And then you go really hard and you wonder why that person over there has the business and the life that they want. And it seems like they just it's the tortoise and the hare, bro.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
So true, dude. It's very interesting too, because Ani, again, is the spinning image of this. Like he just took a month off, went to Japan, India, etc. And aside from just doing 2 calls a week, everything else was automated. His ads are running. He's getting new signups. He doesn't do any sales calls. They just hop in right through a Google document. He doesn't even build landing pages. Like, I mean, there's a lot of easy ways to do this, or simple ways to do it. There's no easy way, but simple ways to do it. But again, it's kind of like money, right? Like if I didn't go through my years of living paycheck to paycheck, I wouldn't have got the pain of like, how do I make enough money that I don't have to do this anymore? Yes. So it was essential to go through that. So for anyone listening, know full well, you may hear these things. You may really be focused on wanting to do them, and you may just, quote unquote, screw up. I'm doing the quotations for anyone listening.
You're going to learn a lot. There's a lot of stuff in the last 11 years that in the moment I thought it was a waste of money for me to learn, or that, and now looking back, it's like, I see how the bricks were being laid now.
Yeah, 100%.
And I know you and I could keep going, and I could have blocked a buffer on the back end of this, and I had a client look in it. So,
dude, that's amazing, man. We're already at the just about the hour mark now at 49 minutes. So, dude, it's been amazing to have you on, bro, and riff on this. Where can I send people to find you, bro, to work with you, to connect with you, and all that kind of doodad stuff?
Come on over to Instagram at coach_Chase_Tolleson. I'm still in there, even though I'm bringing on a setter on, and my setter knows it. He's yelling at me about it. And my setter's a phenomenal human being. If you want to chat with us, and if there's a way we can help, we will. If you want to get to know about me a little more, chasetolleson.com. We got a free training there housed. And the podcast is now called Coaches Breaking Through. So,
dude,
bunch of 8 to 10 minute little solo shows, little valuable nuggets stacked up over there.
Dude, that's awesome, man. And I'll sing Chase's praises, guys. This guy has owned brick and mortar in multiple different industries, online, etc. This is the guy you want to go to. And as you heard him say, he's gone through the costly mistakes, so you don't have to. So save yourself some time, some money, hire Chase if you're looking to rate a business and create a business. That way you don't have to necessarily go through all the same mistakes that we did. Maybe some, that aren't seen yet, but not all the ones that we went through. Chase, I got one last question for you, man, real quick. Let's say someone listens to this episode and they're excited to highly optimize their life. What's the one piece of advice you would give them to start highly optimizing their life tomorrow?
I just did it.
Silence.
Breathe.
Yes, dude.
Yeah.
Remember to take breaths. Very important.
Take long exhales, practice quiet, and then go jump into Ryan's community.
Fuck yeah, dude. I love it. Guys, go give Chase a follow. I got all his contact info in the show notes. If you loved the episode, go give it a 5-star review so we can get the show out to more awesome people just like you. And until next time, everybody, may the source be with you to infinity and beyond. Peace for now. Bye.